Now let's talk about the internal rate of return. The main approach here is that it calculates the discount rate at which the present value of expected cash inflows equals the present value of expected cash outflows. Basically, the internal rate of return is the discount rate that makes the net present value of the project equal to 0. So let's turn to our example again. It's the same type of investment for Hogarth. And again, we're talking about Hogarth using a required rate of return of 16% in its capital budgeting decisions. We also have some assumptions about the timing of cash flows and them occurring at year end except for the initial investment amount. Now, the internal rate of return is often calculated using technology, a financial calculator or Microsoft Excel. Whatever financial tool you have can easily calculate internal rate of return. I won't show you all of the calculations that are going on, but I'll give you the essence of what is going on behind the scenes of these financial tools. Basically, internal rate of return is a trial and error type method. We calculate the net present value of the project at various levels of discount rate. So having gone through the previous calculations where I calculated net present value, we're calculating net present value at a different rate this time, say 14%. I would calculate the net present value at 12%. And I would calculate the net present value at 10%. This range of percentages is informed by what you think the approximate rate of return is on this project. When I calculate the net present value, avoiding all these calculations in detail, the end answer is $1,068 to the negative. That means that the project has a negative net present value at the 14% discount rate. Calculating the net present value of the project at the 12% discount rate yields $242 to the negative. So the net present value is still negative using a 12% discount rate. And when I calculate the net present value of the project at a 10% rate, via a series of calculations, I would find out that the net present value using that rate is positive at $619. What this means is that the internal rate of return, which means it's the discount rate at which the net present value is 0, is somewhere between 10 and 12%, because I know that somewhere between those discount rates, the net present value goes from negative amounts to positive amounts. To figure out the exact discount rate at which the net present value is 0, I can interpolate between these two endpoints. So knowing it's at least 10%, I can say what portion of the range between 10 and 12% lies above the 0 point and what portion lies below it. And so I can calculate that via $619 in the numerator and the entire range in the denominator. That's the percentage of the 2% range between 10 and 12 that signals the point at which the net present value shifts from positive to negative amounts. If I multiply this entire ratio by the 2% range, I can calculate that to be 10% plus 0.719 times the 2%, which is equal to 11.44%. Now, a financial calculator would have spit just this number out, but behind the scenes, it's basically running through a trial and error method to find out where the net present value is calculated as 0, and that tells you what the internal rate of return is. So the 11.44% internal rate of return tells me where the net present value is 0. And it makes sense because when I calculated the net present value using the 16% discount rate, it yielded a negative amount. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the internal rate of return measure. First off, it takes into account the time value of money, and it's cash-based, just like the net present value method. This one is also very easy to interpret. A lot of managers think in terms of percentage returns when considering different investment opportunities, and you can equate what you're saying about different opportunities and compare them very easily. Disadvantages are the same as the net present value method. There's a number of assumptions that are necessary to use internal rate of return, and it is subject to uncertainty.